Hi. Yeah, so this is one of those topics I feel really strongly about, and I want to say it right, or at least real. So yeah, let's talk about art. And more specifically, let's talk about why creating art is really, really hard, like painfully hard sometimes, but somehow absolutely essential for the artist. And if you're an artist watching this, whether you're a painter or a writer or a musician or a dancer or whatever, you probably already know that. You felt it in your bones, that weird tension between I need to do this and this is tearing me apart. So let's explore that. Let's sit in it for a bit. Let's actually honor it. So first of all, can we just admit something out loud? Creating is hard, really hard. Not because you lack talent, not because you're not disciplined enough, not because you're not good. It's hard because creation itself, like the act of pulling something out of your mind, out of your imagination, out of your emotions, is just intense. It's vulnerable, it's revealing. You're basically trying to turn something invisible, something in your head or your heart, into something visible, something other people can hold or hear or see or judge. Let's be honest, judge. And that's terrifying. Most people in the world never attempt anything like that. Not because they don't want to, but because something stops them. Fear stops them. Self-doubt stops them. The desire to stay comfortable stops them. But you didn't choose comfort. You chose art. And art, honestly, is one of the most uncomfortable things you can choose. Let's start with the internal battle, the one people don't see. There's this moment, every artist knows it, where you're sitting in front of a blank page or an empty canvas or a blinking cursor or a silent instrument, and something inside you goes, what if this sucks? And then another voice goes, what if I suck? And then the worst one shows up. What if someone sees this and realizes I'm not actually as talented as they think I am? And you just sit there, shoulders tense, mind racing, stomach doing weird little gymnastic flips, and that's before you even made anything. Most non-artists think the hardest part is the work itself. But honestly, the hardest part is beginning, starting, showing up, putting your ego on the line, choosing to face your own thoughts and emotions instead of avoiding them. Because creating art forces you into a confrontation with yourself. Your fears, your memories, your insecurities, your desires, your dreams. And confronting yourself isn't exactly a relaxing Sunday activity. It's hard because it requires honesty, brutal honesty. And honesty, especially with yourself, is uncomfortable. But even after you get past that internal battle, there's the external one. The world is noisy. People have opinions, loud ones. Algorithms want quick hits, instant gratification, shiny things. And artists don't always make shiny things. They make soulful things, slow things, meaningful things, things that might not perform well, things that might not go viral. But here's the painful truth. The world doesn't always reward depth, but the artist still needs to create deeply. It's not fair, but it's reality. And because of that, creating art often comes with this nagging feeling of being misunderstood, unseen, underappreciated. You release something that feels like a piece of your soul, and the world sometimes reacts with a shrug. That hurts. Of course it hurts, but here's where the essential part comes in. Here's where art becomes not just something hard, but something necessary. Let's be honest for a moment. Life is confusing, messy, chaotic. Things happen that don't make sense. Emotions come up that we don't know what to do with. Experiences hit us harder than we expect. Most people kind of carry all that chaos inside. They hold it, they suppress it, they distract themselves from it. But artists process it. Art becomes the way you make sense of things, the way you organize your internal world, the way you understand yourself. It's like you take something overwhelming, fear, grief, desire, confusion, and you put it into a form you can see or hear or articulate. Suddenly, it's not this massive, unshaped monster inside you. It's something outside of you, something you can look at, something you can understand. Art gives shape to what was formless. It gives language to what was wordless. It gives expression to what was trapped inside. That's not a hobby. That's not a cute personality trait. That's survival, emotional survival. And that's why creating art, even when it's painful, is essential. There's something weird that happens when you make art. You discover things about yourself you didn't know were hiding there. Sometimes you write a line or paint a color or improvise a melody and you go, wow, I didn't realize I felt that. Art is like a mirror, but not the mirror you check before leaving the house. It's a mirror that reflects the internal landscape, your beliefs, your wounds, your imagination, your identity. What you choose to create says something about you. What you choose to avoid creating also says something about you. When people say art is self-expression, they're not kidding. But it's deeper than that. Art is also self-revelation. And sometimes that revelation is uncomfortable, which is why creating can feel so hard. But the uncomfortable truth is often the most important truth, the truth you needed to see. And once you see it, you can grow. Here's the thing. Life happens fast, like too fast. Experiences move through us quickly, and most of the time, we don't stop long enough to understand what any of it means. But artists slow down. Artists observe. Artists reflect. And through the act of creating, you're basically turning experience into understanding. You're asking, what does this mean? What am I feeling? How do I transform this into something meaningful? Art is meaning making, and meaning making is essential for a life that feels purposeful. Without meaning, life becomes just random events. But with meaning, life becomes a story, your story. And art is the way you write that story, even if you're not literally writing. You've probably had this experience. You're working on something, maybe a drawing, a poem, a song, and suddenly you feel lighter, or calmer, or clearer. Nothing dramatic, just relief. Art has this way of letting you release emotions that have been sitting there quietly bothering you. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room. You don't even notice how suffocating things were until the air changes. Creating art lets you take emotional heaviness and move it out of your body, out of your mind, into a form where it can breathe. Artists often heal through their work long before they realize that's what's happening. The act of expression is therapeutic, without needing to call it therapy. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. There's a kind of aliveness that comes from creating. A spark, a sense of electricity running through your mind and your spirit. Even when the process is frustrating or exhausting or maddening, there's still something deeply alive about it. The moment you get an idea, the moment something clicks, the moment something works, the moment something in you says, yes, that's it. That's the feeling most artists chase. Not the applause, not the likes, not the validation, that moment of aliveness. Making art connects you to something bigger than yourself. Call it creativity, intuition, inspiration, the unconscious, the universe. Whatever word feels right. But it's real. and it feeds the soul in a way nothing else does. Okay, this is going to sound a little philosophical, but stay with me. Humans are limited. We have boundaries: time, energy, mortality, responsibilities. But creativity is limitless. When you create something, you're tapping into something that feels infinite, like ideas that exist beyond you, waiting to be discovered. You're making something that didn't exist before and now does. That's basically alchemy. You're turning imagination into form. You're pulling something out of the non-physical world and giving it shape in the physical one. And that's kind of wild when you think about it. It's one of the few human acts that feels transcendent. It's not easy, but it's essential because it reminds you that you're more than your routines, your errands, your obligations, your limitations. You're a creator. People think artists make stories, but actually artists need story. You need narrative. You need cohesion. You need something that makes your life feel like it has direction and texture and depth. Creating art gives you that. And it's not just about the finished piece. It's about the journey you take to get there. Every sketch, every draft, every melody, every project becomes part of the ongoing story of who you are becoming. And that story keeps you grounded, motivated, connected to your own inner evolution. If creating art were easy, everyone would do it. The difficulty is part of the meaning. The struggle is part of the transformation. When you create, you're not just making a piece of art. You're making a truer version of yourself. The struggle shapes you, the process builds you, the resistance teaches you, and the act of expression frees something inside you that refuses to stay silent. Artists don't just create because they want to. They create because they must. It's how they stay alive inside. So yeah, creating art isn't easy. It's emotionally risky. It's mentally challenging. It's spiritually demanding. But every difficulty is matched by something beautiful. The way it reveals you to yourself. The way it makes sense of chaos. The way it heals. The way it brings you alive. The way it turns intangible things into meaning. The way it keeps your inner world rich and awake. The world might not always understand why you do it, but you understand. And that's enough. If you've been doubting yourself, if you've been feeling burnt out, if you've been wondering if it's worth the effort, if you've been stuck in that what's the point headspace, let me say this directly. Don't stop. Not because the world needs your art, even though it probably does, but because you need your art. You need the process. You need the expression. You need the meaning making. You need the self-discovery. You need the aliveness that comes from creating. Your art is not a luxury. It's a lifeline. It's the way your soul stays awake. It's the way your inner world stays honest. It's the way you stay connected to yourself. So yeah, keep going, keep making, keep exploring, keep expressing, keep wrestling with the blank page, the empty canvas, the silent piano, whatever your medium is. It won't be easy. It's not supposed to be easy, but it will always be essential.